Welcome to Booktopia. I'm John Purcell and I'm delighted to be here with Jimmy Barnes to talk about his new autobiography, very revealing autobiography, Working Class Boy. Jimmy, welcome.
How are you?
This is, must have been a tough book to write. It's something that is, seems to be really important for you to write.
Yeah, it was sort of, I didn't have a choice, I had to write it. It was, a lot of the stuff that was in the book was coming to me as I was writing. There was a lot of stuff that completely sort of wiped out of my memory as a child, and I sort of just started writing. It was triggered by. It's a very strange thing. I was on tour, playing music, and I've been in a bunch of hotels, and every hotel has the same movies. And I watched every movie that I wanted to watch, and there was only one movie left on the thing. On the channels, and this was over the period of a couple of weeks on tour, and the last movie was a thing called Snowtown, which was a sort of a horror story about these mass murderers in Adelaide, bodies in a barrel. Anyway, so I didn't want to watch it, and I sort of put it off. And the last couple of nights on tour or something, I had nothing left to watch, and couldn't sleep after a show. So I decided to watch it, and it's the first 20 minutes of the movie. That's all I watched, and then turned it off. It just suddenly, the movie, the look of the movie with the house in the movie looked like my house. It looked like my street. And so I'm sitting there, and I turned it off, and suddenly just all this childhood stuff started coming back. That's when I started writing, and as I wrote, just more and more came back to me. So some of it was a bit traumatic to write, but it was also to relive. But some of it was really great to sort of get it out. I see a lot of this stuff as being sort of like wounds that I've had since I was a child, and writing the book sort of brought them out into the open, put some air on them, so they'll start to heal.
I hope there's none of those pushy parents that read the book going, "So this is how you create a rock star."
Well, you look at it, like. From my earliest ages, I remember pretty young. I just remember jumping around, going, "Look at me, please, somebody look at me," And I was a high achiever. I sort of went, at school. I was captain of the football team. I was ducks of the class, ducks of the school. And eventually a leader of the gang. I could fight as good as anybody. And so it was all the sort of stuff that I lived as a child really was the ideal sort of. It was like a breeding ground for a rock singer, and of course, I once I sort of got the attention, I just sort of kept wanting more of it and kept craving it. So
a lot of people who come in here who have started to write their memoirs, as you said, it sort of came back. Are things come back that you really didn't wish to come back in the writing process?
Well, there was a lot of it. There was stuff there that I hadn't spoke to anybody about ever, and since they happened, or since even stuff that happened to myself and my siblings that we never ever spoke about, and so that stuff I knew, and I knew it was there, and I was just, and it was a battle with myself to get it out, and part of the process of writing the book was I knew that had to come out. But in the process of doing it, a lot of stuff and there's a lot of things that happened there that really I think I just blocked out completely, and I'm going, oh geez, I remember that now, And so I'd write one thing and then suddenly I'd go, oh God, I remember this now. So I'd have to sort of finish telling that story.
I've been an advocate for years. I mean, I used to have a second-hand bookshop, and I would talk to people who had, were quite happy to talk about their lives, but never really shared it with their own families or written it down. This, to me, is one of the greatest gifts you can give your own family. I mean, even though it's not the easiest of reads.
Well, I think it's, for me, like it was cathartic for me, and it was a healing process for me, and I think that immediately affects my children, my grandchildren. So but what I've noticed, the book hasn't come out yet, and I sent it to my siblings, and like I said, there's stuff in there that we haven't spoken about, and by Sunday, I gave it to them on the Thursday, and by Sunday I had calls from all of them saying, oh, this is really great. I'm glad somebody spoke about it. So I think it is actually going to be really healing for my immediate, my siblings as well as for me. And God knows we needed to heal. There was a lot of stuff that was pretty, I used to look at it and think, Jane, my wife, had asked me, so how was your life? And I say, normal, really. And then I started writing, and I thought it was really abnormal. but I've been telling people, I think I've gone full circle, and unfortunately, I do think that my life was more normal than I'd like to think. You know, there's a lot of people who go through the same stuff as what I do. A lot of people who don't talk about it, and a lot of people who who are ashamed of where they came from and stuff. And hopefully this book will help sort of let some of those people, get it off their chest.
I think all those people who sang along with your songs. I mean, there's a lot of that. And a lot of people recognise themselves or moments in their lives in the songs.
Yeah.
So I can imagine them getting this is the full blast of it. This is it's for a lot of people that find a lot of their own childhood and memories of their own. I mean, I was reading and I was thinking about I had a different childhood.
Yeah.
But because you're sort of reading it in this chronological order, and this happens after, and my own teen life came back to me.
Yeah.
So I can imagine other readers just washing over.
I think there's going to be I think particularly with men and in this country anyway. I think men don't really talk about stuff. If it's problems in the past, they try to get it out of the way as quick as possible and never go back over again. I think the stuff in there that there's certainly I know that I needed to sort of to discuss and bring up to my family and so I think there's going to be a lot of people out there, particularly blokes, who will be able to see themselves in different various parts of the book. Maybe not all of the book, because some of it is pretty horrific, but certainly in different parts of it. And I think I think those people who come out and watch me, I've been singing live for 45 years. I've been touring since 43 years. I've been touring since 1973. And a lot of those people who came and who were in the audience sweating and put their arms in the air and singing along with songs like Flame Trees and stuff like that, I think they're subconsciously connected with me already, and I think there's people out there who are going to directly connect with stuff in this book, because it's it's really the one thing about life is we all have our stories, but it's a common story. We're all just trying to survive, and we're all getting through it the best we can. My parents made a lot of mistakes, but they were just trying to get through it the best they could with the tools they had, and that's what we all do. And if and I think anybody that can relate to my life will sort of it won't be the same story, but they'll have their own twist on it.
There are benefits also for younger readers. I mean, there's two. There's a serious side of this and a quirky side, but one of them is there's a tip for a young man in the middle of the book where some of the blokes are out there fighting at the pub and beating each other up, trying to attract women. You just go and talk to the women, which is a handy hit for any young man too.
Well, the bloke, see where I grew up, all the blokes were all beating their chest and really, maybe I was just shifty, I don't know. but I'd see them all, they'd all be there fighting, and I'd just go, I'm going in here and have a drink with these chicks, and I just always got on well with women. So it was sort of. It was a bit of a curse at the same time. It got me in a lot of trouble, but it was true. I couldn't see the point of going out and beating people to a pulp. And literally where I came from in Elizabeth, if you weren't a member of the gang, you were a victim. Yeah. So I worked out. I was in amongst the gang. I worked out that if you see someone who's a big mouth and it's that barking dog thing, the barking dog doesn't bite, and somebody who'd be yelling and posturing and chest beating, I'd hit him, and then I'd go away and never would leave me alone, and I'd just go and talk to girls.
There's also the other side, the more serious side of this is it's great for young people to see what life was like and to see a different side of. I mean, we're very, very lucky right now in Australia to the level of life that we're all enjoying, and the freedoms and the laws and all this sort of protecting us and the like. But they get built over time with the hard work of political agitators and all this sort of change things. And it's really, I think it'd be good for young people to read this and say, you allow these idiots in Parliament to take away our rights, and we'll go back to circumstances where no one cares about anyone.
But at the same thing, there's people, they talk about issues that are current now in the book. I can't believe that the level of domestic violence in this country is so high. And when I'm writing the book and I look back in the 60s, my mum was getting belted around and hiding, and we were hiding around the beds and all sorts of stuff. And here we are, sort of 50 years later, and nothing's changed. Nothing's changed. Really, there's a one woman a week dying from domestic directly to domestic violence in this country, and it's just really horrific. Or children, but so as much as we've allowed, we don't want politicians to change what we fought for, we've got to stand up now and say, you've got more work to do, boys. That's what I think.
You're doing a singing, speaking tour coming up in November, and that is raising money for Rosie Batty's foundation.
Cool. Well, I met Rosie when I sang at the Australian of the Year Awards for a couple of years, and I met her down in Canberra at that. And I just, I'm obviously, like anybody who's seen, anybody who's living in this country seen what her story was, and it was horrific. And but the way she's made, a horrific event, motivator, and it is sort of prodding other people to do something about this. It's incredible. So I tip my hat to her, and I really, anything I can do to support that is, it's people. There's too many people, and it's children, it's women, it's domestic violence affects, and it's not just about physical violence, there's emotional violence, there's all sorts of abuse that people can face in this country. So I think she's doing incredible work, and really happy to, but it's she's got a long road ahead of her. She's been like the best campaigner for to bring this into her head, and it seems to be getting worse. We're not doing enough about it, and she's working her guts out for it. Yeah.
Well, books like this will again raise the issue.
But domestic violence issues, but the stuff I address in this book, it comes back to really about education, about I just can't believe we sit and watch. I can't watch sport on the TV now without being just inundated with ads for easy to make things betting easy. Yeah. I remember when I was a kid, one of the reasons we were starving, and one of the reasons there was so much pressure on my parents, is because my dad would gamble the money away. And the gambling seems to be just like they're making it easier. You don't even have to get out of your seat now. And you can sneak into the bathroom and gamble away your family's money, which just puts pressure on the family unit. So there's and advertising for alcohol and stuff like that. There's got to be a better way of dealing with this stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, well, this is a very powerful story, and it really is the origin story of Jimmy Barnes. It gets right to the point where you jump on the back.
I'll do a prequel next. When I was a young sort of embryo.
So you take the story right up to where you jump on the back of the truck and go off to Cold Chisel. Are we going to get that second volume down the track?
I've already started writing it, and hopefully I'll do it in the next 6 months. I really want. I've been talking to you off camera about this. I don't want to. It's really easy for me to say I've got a million really funny, great rock and roll stories. But I think there's so many rock and roll books around. I don't want to write a book that's just stories, because it's too easy. I've got better stories than most of them. I was pretty wild. But what I want to do is look at the trauma and the impact of that trauma on my life then, and how that affected me growing up as a young man. The point where we finish this book and I take off in the truck with Cold Chisel, it's sort of the start of a journey. That really all the damage was done, and then from there on, the result of that damage, I impacted on a lot of people, and really, I sort of make light about it. But I think from the time I joined Cold Chisel until just a few years ago was probably one of the longest, slowest suicide attempts in Australian history. I really tried everything to sort of wipe myself to the ground, and I've just luckily, I think I've got to thank my parents for a great constitution. So I don't want to just write a story that's all glossy and nice. I want to look at the impact of all this stuff had on me, and how I dealt with it, and also how I didn't deal with it.
I can tell you, none of your fans would want something glossy and nice. I mean, they're Cold Chisel fans.
Well, the thing is, everybody thinks, I used to get out there, and the worse I behaved, the more I drank, the more people liked me. And I got to the point, really, I remember, this is one of the issues I'll be looking at in the next book, where I just thought, well, if I don't misbehave, if I don't act like an animal, people aren't going to like me, and so that was almost, it's almost true. I'd go up and do things that everybody else wanted to rebel. I'd go and rebel and satisfy everybody. They'd all be happy. All right, we're good now. We'll go home. But in the meantime, I'd be at home sitting and looking at myself in the mirror, going, "What the hell are you doing, mate?" So it's pretty complicated. But I've no regrets. But I've made a lot of mistakes, done a lot of great things, a lot of bad things in this life, at this point in my life, the way I say at the end of the first book there, you know, I don't regret a thing, because everything I've done has brought me to where I am, you know. And if you get here and you can look at yourself and you're happy, and you know, I'm not perfect, but I'm working on it, you know. I'm working hard, and you know, I can't regret anything, you know.
Thank you very much for speaking.
No worries.
I do believe you got the book of the year for this Christmas, and everyone should be getting a copy of it.
Well, I hope it helps people.
Yeah, that's definitely going to happen.
Yeah, and you know, I wanted it to be entertaining. Wanted to be, you know, my way of dealing with trauma has been making light of it a lot. So there's a bit of humour in the book too.
Yeah, no, I can tell the audience it's not all doom and gloom. it's a great read.
Oh,
so congratulations.
Cheers.
Jimmy's book, Working Class Boy, is available at booktopia.com.au right now.